Sajid, the speaker of today's topic, and let me introduce you Taha a bit, and then he'll tell you about. So I would like to welcome Taha for giving us the opportunity to know more about this specific topic regarding zero trust and AI. So to start with, Taha is senior cybersecurity architect, and he has a huge experience in the field of zero trust and AI. And today he will be talking about this specific topic regarding zero trust and its role in the agentic AI flows. So over to you, Taha, and thank you very much for sparing your time today.
Of course, thank you for having me, Salman. Thank you. So I'll share my screen. I sent a request to, yeah, I think it's,
I made you the co-host, so you should be able to
yeah.
share the screen.
Uh, I'll do a slide share. Is it coming right?
Yep.
So can you turn out in the full screen? Right now we are not seeing in the full screen mode.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is
Now it's visible. Yeah. Thank you.
Not okay. Sounds good. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing great. The topic I've chosen is zero trust for zero human interactions, and I'll be going to talk. Be talking through first of all explaining the zero trust and why the zero human interaction is coming so live now, and why there is so much interest in the industry. I'll briefly start with a table of contents. So we will cover like why there is an sort of the urgency or why do we act now? What is coming with us or what is happening around our space in which we need to pay attention to. We'll also talk about the attack surface and why agentic security is important. What are the different attack patterns we are observing, and what are the different component that you need to take into consideration when you're designing a workflow like this. Uh, Also, I would touch upon few use cases, especially the SOC triage and DevOps remediation, because this has been the common use cases we have seen across the industry. Then I'll talk about also some industry solutions, what the industry is doing, and how Microsoft, MITRE, and NIST and other standards body is coming up with this and coming up with this new framework. In the last half of the session, I'll go through the zero trust agentic workflow framework and architecture. That what does a solid zero trust agentic workflow look like in terms of if you want to enable security posture, and so how you can do this. And lastly, I'll give a roadmap to how the organizations are adapting agentic security workflows in their organizations, as well as what the future outlook looks like. So it will be an interesting session, guys, and I want you to everybody to participate. And if you have any questions or if you want to stop me anywhere, or just raise your hand and drop your question in the chat. I'll try my best to see the chat messages, but I'll be happy to take any question after the presentation as well. A bit about myself. So I've been in the industry for almost almost 20 years now. I've been working as a full-time as a principal security architect. My core responsibilities including designing agentic security workflows, reviewing like AI security-based solutions, especially around the zero trust identity and cloud security domains. I have founded few companies as well. I help the leaders to bridge technology and cybersecurity through training, research, and advisory. Like also, I've been speaking like for over 10 years now. I'm also a book author, and I've my goal is to make sure that the education is like easily accessible to like to the masses, and I would and I like the to break the complex ideas into easy to understand explanations. So why this talk is important now? So like agentic AI is becoming the new normal, I would say, the non-human workforce. Everybody is using agents these days, or most organizations are actually replacing the workforce with the AI agent. So what does the security means for those organizations? And as well as we have seen security teams have to take, and now they are used, like they're mainly involved in the human in the loop workflow. But I would explain you that how you can design such workflows. And like this session, like importantly, will offer a framework that the leaders can apply immediately. So it would be an interesting session, guys. So just be with me in this. So before we start, I want you to imagine like it's midnight, and the incident response agent sees something anomalous. It has disabled a service account, blocks a subnet, and it has also opened a ticket like on Jira or on ServiceNow and posted the teams. And then all of a sudden, the deployment is rolled back, whereas no one has touched a keyboard, right? So this is the kind of era we're living in. And the next morning, interestingly, we are all thinking that was it a brilliant automation or an unauthorized production change, right? So unless you are deep involved into the workflows, the agent can do a lot of things, right? And the governance and the security part of it becomes ever so important. So the new question now comes in that who is that agent, and who was it allowed to do, and who delegated the authority. So we have now coming up with questions which we don't have an answer to, to be honest with you. We are still kind of working our way through towards this. But the question remains still there, right? That who is allowing these agents to do, and how much the agent can do. So this is I'll try to in this 30 minutes of our discussion, I'll try to answer all of these questions. So to start off, if we think about how the leap has started. So when we talk about chatbots to actors, it's about generating text to taking actions across the enterprise system. So we've seen like how the chatbot has been coming of age, and it's answering questions. Then that chat response is being transformed into or given to a co-pilot which can assist a human, and the human can maybe approve it, or if it's co-pilot, then it can take the actions itself as well. And from there we are now giving to those agents to act on those actions. And the agents, if you talk about agent deployments, whether it's an MCP tool or agent to agent orchestration, it's about having a complete workforce of agents. And we are seeing the common deployment pattern is to use a service mesh of it, right? We call it agentic mesh. So like think about like multiple agents, they are coordinating with each other, and the machine speed workflows happens. And and in terms of the security posture, we have to, it's not an option anymore, we have to shift from that protect the prompt approach, which is where we are having prompt guardrails and all sort of prompt injection, taking care of the injection attacks, to govern the act, that we have to control that who is doing what. So so the paradigm has shifted a bit, and it's more now the shift left concept has come of its age, and now it's a new normal we have seen across the organization. So now to actually understand this, we have to understand what the zero human interaction really means, right? It has not zero accountability, like machine to machine execution without the human in the overloop. So think about if you having a agentic architecture where we have multiple agents communicating with each other, and we have seen like agents use like service to service communication, right? Machine to machine communication happens. So in the zero human entity workflow, like think about that agent when it receives a goal, it retrieves the context and the memory to what it has been programmed for. Then it has to go through different workflows, like it has to plan the steps, it has to call the tools and APIs. With the tools, I mean the MCP servers and the APIs are also, behind those behind the MCP servers. Then we have to also monitor the outcome, what's going on. And as we monitor and as the agents is taking the actions, we have to also learn from the feedback, which is the reinforcement learning part of it comes in. And if you talk about the examples, it goes from the SOC triage agent to, customer support, doing a refund, so we can divide the workflow into different sort of like task, and outputs, and we can have multiple agents, for those, like examples. But like when it comes to the security implications, we have to also ensure that the agent, becoming a decision workload. So it's about having a supervised agent which actually, triaging and taking the decision on what to do next, which agent he needs to send the call to, as in if we have like multiple agents, so the supervisor agent has to decide which agent should work in the next workflow, right? And which tools to call, right? And what about the audit trail? So this is the security implications has been also evolving when it comes to the agentic workflows. And with this security implementation, we have to understand what the attack surface looks like for us. So if you think from the attack surface perspective, if you have designs like such an architecture, like it goes into multiple levels. It starts with the user goal, like what is the user trying to do in terms of the prompts, what should be the context of those prompts and where those prompts are being fed into. So we have seen the RAG pipelines, we have seen the memory, usage of those pipelines. Then within those memory and RAG, you have to also think about the planning part of it, right? That how, what unsafe plan policy bypass looks like for you. And that is where the guardrails will come in. So there are different sort of like frameworks. If you talk about like AWS cloud or GCP cloud, we have like Armor guardrails in the GCP cloud, then we have Agent Core in AWS, right? So every platform has its own sort of guardrail framework is coming in, and then it comes to, calling an API call with when the planner is deciding what to do next and implementing within the guardrails, then it has to use the tools to call those agents, right? So that is where the output and action take place, where if there is a data exfiltration, like unsafe transaction. So there is the attack vectors spans over multiple surfaces. So as you design your architecture, you have to make sure that you are covering your bases and you have enough security, sort of the security in depth, like I call it, across like all these different components. And the key point is, the high risk moment is not when the model speaks, it is when the agent acts, right? So we have to think through that the AI security landscape has been evolved, and we have to, keep a track of it, right? And we have to understand what the attack surface looks like, right? Any questions before we go into the next slide? And the use cases will be important in order to understand all of this, but I would just pause for a brief and see if there's any questions. If none, then we can start. That's okay. So now, like to understand the attack surface, we have to understand the use cases and how it applies across different like industries. So in the case of the agentic SOC triage, the business value is that, you have to correlate different, alarms or logs from different, security tools, and we have seen for that, right? The scene can ingest the log from EDR, from CloudWatch, from, different like security enforcement points. Then we have to draft incident timeline, that when we can close that incident. We have to create some sort of plan of containment, and then we have to reduce the analyst fatigue, because the more the time the triage takes, the more time it takes to resolve that issues, right? And what we have seen in terms of the abuse case, that the prompt injection in log payload, there are different sort of triage or different incidents can happen. The agents, disables the wrong identity, the false positive triggers outage, so the in the case of the SOC, there are different abuses that can happen around the agentic workflow. So what should we do and how do we better control it? We have to think from the zero trust perspective, that we have to like limit what the agents can do in terms of giving them only the read only by default. It should not be having a write permissions. And then we can have the risk score action tiers that, for example, if there's a high risk, then you need to involve certain agents. If there is a medium to low risk, then there is a different sort of agents that comes in. So you have to decide which agents has what authority. And then make sure that whenever you are doing or whenever there is an production change that is happening or something which is killing a process looks like or blocking a port, at least as of now, I would suggest to include a human approval for destructive action. This would help you save some time, as well as your production system will be safe. And then lastly, you have to also have some sort of an evident playbook log. So in different sort of frameworks, when we have seen agentic architecture, there is also a session logs and tracing capabilities that this architecture gives. So make sure that in those cases, if you have to do go back and do reverse engineering of those actions, like session logs will definitely be handy and would help you in tracing back all the actions. But then if you talk about the autonomous DevOps remediation, the agent can patch faster than a human. But at the same time, it can also break production faster too. So this use case is very close to me, that I have been designing such remediation plans. So what I've seen is, if we can uh, have such a design in place, and everybody wants to automate the DevOps, right? And if we can have agents does the automation or does the remediation, it will not only reduce the man hours the workforce needed, but it also can open up some other opportunities for you to look into, right? In order to have all of this in place, you have to make sure that you have to like design the systems efficiently, and make sure that the guardrails are in place. So I'll give you an example. So if, let's say, if there's a trigger happened, a critical CV detected in a container image, right? So then you have an agent plan which actually find the owner, create the branch and update the dependency, and also run the test. Once that is done, then you have to upload the changes or update the changes, and you have to call Git or run through a CI/CD pipeline, or call and can deploy the APIs. Then in the end, the decision is the patch is merged and held for approval, because in that case, if you are patching a system, it can have some dependencies, and they can also like open up like some compatibility issues, right? So like this is where you need to think through that, although this looks really good in terms of the business value, but if something is not designed correctly, then it can also leads to some issues, right? So this way, if you will be able to understand your business context, can understand how you can set the guardrails right across different layers, then you'll be able to better control the use case. And in terms of the control design, you have to I propose to can you can merge the human in the loop before you deploy something, right? So any critical actions that the agents can take, make sure that you are having some sort of human in the loop, or some sort of a supervisor agent itself who is reviewing this change, right? You cannot just like rely on an isolated agent to do that action, right? So this is something important. Uh, I'll not go into the details of the use case three. What I want you to like take a look at, this threat matrix. So there are different threats at one side. So here, from prompt tool and like tool injection to excessive agency, memory poisoning, all the way towards a runway spend in loops, right? Like you need to understand where those threat enters, what is that point of control, not just the model layer. And you have to also understand, for each of the threads, you have to understand the impact of it. So for example, if you are in the case of prompt injection, you have to understand that the impact could be the unauthorized tool action. Maybe it can, with a prompt, for example, like I want to analyze my logs, or I want to make a security reference architecture, and in which you are calling the draw.io MCP tool. So if the prompts are not checked properly, or if the guardrails are not in place, the prompts can lead into some actions which can be impactful, right? In this case, it can be unauthorized tool action. Whereas in the case of excessive agency, there can be a privilege abuse, and the only control, I would say that in the case of all of these, or the common sort of control, is to make sure that you are having least privilege. If the authorization is being granted, it should be limited to what the workflow looks like, and what the agents can do in terms of, you need to have scope tokens. I've seen like implementation where for non-human identity, uh, there are OAuth 2 that has been implemented for that service to service communication, but that token is not limited. The scope is not limited. So this is something which can cause problems for you. Then the case of data exfiltration, supply chain compromises. Make sure that you are having a DLP in place. The SBOMs, are intact for your AI sort of supply chain tools. There is also AI bomb that is coming in. So make sure that if you're using LLMs or you're using MCP servers, any libraries, any like machine learning models, they should all have the like AI bomb, I would call it. It's similar to the S bomb, in which you can track down where the package is coming from and if there is any CVs or not. And then the case of the loops, right? So the cost can be, if there is any like loops like which is happening in the workflow, that can cause excessive cost for you, because remember, every prompt means a token. Okay, it has to be referenced, it has to be called for every time the agent runs. So if you have more tokens in your network, the your vector DB or your database which is processing those tokens and coming up with these embeddings will be more costly for you, and which can easily exhaust your resources. So make sure that you are planning the budgets and you are putting rate limiting and kill switch for those actions. So this is very important for you. uh, in case of what the industry is doing, so let's take a look of what is the industry solution landscape looks like. So I've divided into different layers. The I like and in identity and access, Microsoft has their Entra agent ID workload and like entity, in which every agent, you can get a cryptographic hash of that agent, and you can maintain an agent registry for all those agents. And this can give every agent a non-human identity. And within those identity, you can limit what the agents can do, who is the owner, and what the life cycle looks like for that. In the case of AI security frameworks, we have seen like good work by NIST AI, having like this AI like risk management framework. Then we have Google Save, OASP, Agentic, and LLM top 10. Mitris is coming up with its Atlas like framework. So all of this is good, but like there is no like a one common framework for all the organizations. You have to understand what your agentic architecture looks like, what use case you are solving it for, and what are the security posture your current organization has. So based on that, you'll be able to understand what framework to apply, right? So this is something which is only for the reference. Okay. Then when it comes to the runtime governance, we have seen agent gateways now. I think Google have like recently like introduced that they have also have their like agent gateway. Similarly, like similar to the agent core. So at one place you can check all the API calls that agents are making. You can also set up guardrails, the compliance rules for on those gateways. So this is something good, and a lot of organizations are adapting the agent gateway sort of the architecture framework. So that is something like working, but like you have to make sure that you have like your architecture well, and then you'll be able to use that better. We also have seen for data memory and security, there is RAG permissioning like guardrails coming up, DLP, vector DB governance. So it's like important to have the data insights of your architecture, where your data is residing, in which memory or vector store it's been going, and then you can be able to better control and better have the provenance for that. Then you have to also look into the observability and response. We have seen uh, Palo Alto coming up with this Cortex solution. Cortex has this like advanced feature which can give you not only the traditional seam or the SOAR functionality, but it can also give you that posture management, looking into all the agentic calls, and if there's any like exploitability can happen within your agentic framework. So that is something good. Uh, so yeah, there are different solutions. So like in terms of assessment lens, you have to understand that can your agent identify, like being able to identify, for example, if it has any like identity, then what tools it can call into, uh, what what should be the intent of those actions, how you can protect the data, and how to stop if there's any unsafe actions or not, right? So if you have to think from the assessment point of view that which tools I need to pick, where should I use those tools? If you have a good assessment lens, then you will be in a better position to actually implement and do better design of your architecture. Uh, Okay. Now, what should be the good framework? So we have seen like NIST coming up with its own framework, like MITRE has its own. There are different like security best practices coming in from OASP. So there's good work being done across the industry. But there are six main pillars that you have to think through while designing a framework for zero trust agentic workflows. Uh, like you have to first of all have that mindset that you don't have to trust an agentic action. Always verify the intent. Make sure that you have good data provenance. The tools are clearly laid out, and you have to know what the outcome looks like, right? So these are the top sort of the guiding principle which I would tell you. And think across the agent identity. That is your number one. So if you don't know what agents you have in your network, uh, what are the identity, who wants those agents, and do better, and do you have the life cycle in place for those agents, then you'll be in a mess, right? So make sure that you have agent identity in place. You have to understand the intent and policy. The goals needs to be validated, and against the policies before plans execute. So if you don't have a policy in place, the goals, then it will be difficult to control the actions. You have to also understand which tools gateway you are using. There are some default MCP tools that you can like leverage from the platform. Then there is some uh, MCP tools which you can locally host it, or you can import some tools like which are available. So make sure that those tools, the actions to those tools are brokered, scoped, and rate limited. Then you have to also think through the data and memory part of it. Make sure that the context follows least privilege. Service to service calls or any scope that you are giving, it should be limited, and you should have some sort of a data loss prevention policy in place. Also ensure that for the runtime evidence, because whenever you are designing in agent, you have to also deploy those agents, right? So in those deployment, making sure that the telemetry is in place, there's a reasoning traces, like you have like approvals, and you have like temper evident logs, right? So in the case of like the GCP, the Google Cloud Platform, they have recently introduced Cloud Assist, which you can use to do telemetry and session logging and all those good stuff with your agentic architecture. And lastly, it should be resilient. So uh, try and do some testing for the kill switches. Make sure that the rollbacks are in place. You have done chaos testing, and you have the incident playbooks, right? For example, if this agent is performing action which is not authorized, how should I fall back? Or what if the log is coming in from my cloud assist, for that agent, that if I'm catching something in those logs, how to develop incident playbook around that, right? So this is very important for you. So like these are my main six go to pillars in a proposed framework. Yeah. Now, in terms of the architecture, I have designed multiple architectures, but having a good security reference architecture is always handy. It always serve you better when it comes to applying the standards. So it starts with the human business goal. That what are we trying to accomplish, and what are we trying to achieve, and you shouldn't and there needs to be an agent orchestrator, which can take the calls and can direct the request to different agents. There should be a policy decision point, that how to trigger an action, right? So, and which actions needed when. So there has to be uh, a definitive decision point with you in terms of the policies. Then the policies, within the policy, you have to also understand which tools you have to you have to keep in place. You don't have to give access to all your tools. And within the tools space, I mean the MCP server. So you need to have an MCP gateway, and you need to understand for each of the policies which MCP tool you need to call into. And the MCP tools are behind the APIs, right? So uh, make sure that the enterprise APIs are definitely are well structured. Sorry, and the MCP tools are tied to those enterprise APIs which are needed for it. So there should be a segmentation that should be in place for that. For the agent, there should be an identity and token broker, which can limit the access to what the agents can do. For each the decision points, the RAG and the memory guardrails in place. For the tools to act on it, there should be a sandbox execution, so you can test and see if those actions are really needed. And behind all of this, uh, there should be a telemetry and audit layer that should be in place. And you should have a plan to how to roll back or how to kill different actions, right? And who will invoke those actions. So you have to have those guardrails in place. My design principle is simple, that like agents never connect directly to the high impact. That should be your guiding principle. Uh, they should pass through identity, policy, data, and evidence control points. And only this way you will be able to better design your agentic architecture. Uh, Now there are some different agentic red team scenarios. We have seen different vendors coming up with their own agentic red team tools. If it's Palo Alto, there's a good tool, something called Prisma Airs, where you can constantly do the red teaming for your LLMs. You can test your agents with prompt injection attacks, tool abuse, privilege escalation. So whatever the threats uh, can harm your architecture, make sure that you have some sort of a red teaming tool which can do such actions and can test your agentic architecture. And this way you'll be able to learn from where the vulnerabilities are, and then you can use that learning to reinforce your architecture, right? So this is something which is really important. Uh, we have seen uh, people are getting excited when they can use chat gpt to create a new agent, and if that agent can send them calendar calendar invite, or send them the email, so that is something good. You need to get it's always good to get excited, that gives you motivation. But remember that the safe agent is not that pass a demo or can work in something like for your normal routine use case. It is one that can survive adversarial workflow testing. So remember, as you're designing your workflows, like the agentic red teaming scenarios should be in place, as you roll into the production. There is different implementation roadmap. You start having you have to start with crawl, and then you have to walk and then run. So similarly, divide whatever your plan looks like. Make sure that you have proper phases in place, that when to do what. And in as a rule of thumb, you need to have an inventory of all your agents in place, and you have to classify those agents, what those can do, who are the owners of it, which data they can access, and if they have any identity, cryptographic identity or not. And then you have to control the high risk actions, like implement agent identity and scope tokens, right? And then you have to make sure that the assurance in place in terms of proper testing, and then you have to think through scalability and operational part of it, right? So this is how you can set up your implementation roadmap. Now, okay, so what the future outlook looks like? There's a lot of talk happening in cybersecurity conferences. Everybody is coming up with its own agentic workflows. There was a time when I used to visit RSA, and every solution has its zero trust brand name to go on it. And when you ask them questions, then they'll be all packaging it in the same sort of the SOAR or security automation part of it. So what will change if you think about the future outlook? Like agent inventories like become as important as asset inventories, right? In the IEM and PAM programs, agent has its own sort of identity now. The like the agent ops, like which I call it a new workforce, has become the new operating discipline. And security teams have now shifting from the review every task to verify every control, right? It's more about controlling what the agents can do rather than just making sure that the every task has been done, right? So in terms of the security leadership, uh, like they should have a control plane for non-human decision makers. Now, I mean, gone are the days when we are looking at the human, like the human workforce, making sure that all the username credentials, all that sort of good stuff is in place. But now we have to think through that. Do we have a control plane in place for all the non-human decision makers? Whether we have a policy boundaries for different machine enforceables, whether the audit trail in place, do we have the culture where the autonomy can trust? There is always a tendency that when something is new coming up, everybody's leaning towards it, right? Whether it's AI or zero trust or but do we have the culture or not? Like, does the team understands what they need to do or not? Do we have the enough skill set or not within the team? So try to build a culture around it, where the autonomy like earns trust, because if you don't do it now, somebody else will do it, right? So you have to think through what your security posture looks like and how you can use the agents in a better way to do the work in a much productive way. So that is how I look at it. And the winners, I would say, the winners will not be those who block the agents, but those who govern them safely. So this is the key takeaway I want you to give from this. Now, in terms of the conclusion, we have already like spent a lot of time on this, but make sure that you have an identity first. I mean, thinking you have to you have to make sure that the goal is clear. You have to think through the intent before access. You have to constrain the hands, as well as you have to observe every outcome. Zero trust is for agents. It's not a product category. It's an architecture discipline. So if you have to just add on zero trust flavor into your product, you'll not go far, from there. But if you have to think, if you like if you have to embed such an architecture in your organization, then you'll be more in a safer zone. So that is what I wanted to contribute, like add on here. So I want to leave you with a call to action. So when human leaves the loop, trust cannot leave with them. This is a famous saying. And for like zero trust for agentic workflows, it means that every autonomous action carries identity, intent, and permission, and a safe path to the reversal. And I want you to build the agents that are fast enough for the future and accountable enough for society, because there is always a tendency that we all get excited when we learn something new, or when we build something new, and then we are catching up with security. Now it's about time that we should think about security first, especially within the agentic security works, well, like space. Okay, not because somebody else can hold us, or can hold us accountable for that, but it's about our own safety. If we have a better sort of the agentic architecture, we'll be in a better position to scale and to become productive. So that is something which I want to give away. There are some good resources here which you can use for further reading if you're interested in it. So I have put down some key resources here which you can use to learn. And since like there's a lot of work going on in this space, I see there's a lot of opportunities, no matter where you are. So if you are good in like AI, and and you're learning agentic, so I mean, getting into like agentic security will also give you the edge. And believe me, there is like handful of people who knows all this stuff. So it will be a good opportunity for you to learn and to grow in your career as well. I have a few LinkedIn courses. If you have a LinkedIn Learning Premium membership, you can take a look at my course on LinkedIn. It's on Zero Trust Security Architecture. from principal to reference designs. I've also done some agentic AI security courses as well. So please reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm available on LinkedIn. You can connect with me, and if you have to involve in some security research projects, I'll be happy to have you as well. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please to ask.
Thank you very much, Taha. It
Okay.
was very insightful, and it gave us quite a lot of food for thought. I mean, so yeah, we do have some questions. Saad, would you like to say something?
No, no. I have the same thing. I mean, we have some questions from the audience, like one question from the Hassan and two questions posted by myself. So first, question from the Hassan. Can we also call agentic AI an insider threat when lacking guardrails? This is
Sorry,
a
can you
question
repeat
from.
it? I'm not able
Yeah,
to.
this is on the chat. Yeah. Can we also call agentic AI an insider threat when lacking guardrails?
True, true. So agentic AI is all in your enterprise, right? So if you are having multiple agents and you have assigned different duties to all those agents, uh, those can act as an insider threat if those are not being governed and we don't have enough guardrails in place, right? If you think about from insider threat perspective, it's about like employees who are having like laptops and who are working through different like enterprise APIs or through systems. Like so similarly, if you have the agents doing such a work, right? So it's about exposing those agents as well to it, right? So if you have any agents which are compromised from outside, it's about insider risk as well, right? So it's I mean, yes, the same thing.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from my side. I mean, how the organization can practically implement this zero trust agentic workflow framework in the real world without adding too much complexity? What is the simplest way to implement this zero trust?
I think zero trust for like agentic or zero trust for human or for human identity or it's about I see it as the same thing. It's about having the mindset, right? So let's say if you are having a zero trust framework properly implemented in a human sort of workforce where you are having identity access management guardrails, you having policy determination point, policy enforcement points all in place, and you are having a continuous monitoring of your human sort of workforce and your security posture. uh, Taking that and implementing into the agentic systems would not be a different. It's just about, for example, instead of the human IAM roles, you have to think through how you can govern the service accounts. In the case of the man in the middle, for example, if you are like checking the human or the system logs on the LDAP or on your identity access management tools, you have to do the same thing with like for the agent. So it's not about we are doing any changes when it comes to the agentic versus non-agentic architecture. It's about if you have that zero trust mindset or not. That is one. And secondly, like you have to understand where you are in terms of the zero trust network. So it's easy to say that we are having zero trust, so you have to be able to aware of what sort of zero trust maturity level your organization in. If you're a beginner level or an optimum level, right? So understand that first, right? And from
Mm,
there, wherever you are in terms of like which phase, try to see if you can use my current zero trust security posture within the agentic space and how much and what sort of maturity level I'm in, and then you can scale it from there.
great, thank you. Second question from my side: how the
Hmm.
organization prioritize first when building the trust for the agentic system? Which is the top priority?
I think the top priority is to make sure that your agents can be discovered. So
Mm,
having an agent registry is the fundamental step. If
okay.
you don't know what and how many and where your agents are, then there is no point of controlling them. It's about having, for example, 100, securing identity for like 100 plus employees, and like we end up knowing that there are actually 1,000 employees in our network. So it's not about the best place to start off is by governing the agents, by setting up the agent registry. So that is one. And secondly is tracking that what actions are those agents are doing, which calls they are making. So there are two main calls that the agents make. The agents can call to another agent like through an agent to agent protocol, and then the agents can call to the MCP servers, and they have to invoke an action to it, right? So if they have there are two fundamental calls. So if you're tracking and securing those sort of the encryption or the transit security, then you'll be in a better position to do it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. One question is posted as a too long, so just to summarize, uh, Mohammed Jafri,
Why
he
don't we ask
posted.
him to unmute and ask the question
Yeah,
himself
yeah, please,
so that
Jafri,
he'll
if you
have
are
like
available.
more
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, we can open the floor, and I'll be happy to.
to have a
Uh,
direct question. Yes, we can. Anyone can raise the hand and ask the question if they want to be directly interacted with the the is available.
And
Hello, can you
Hassan,
hear
you
me?
also have a question? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Mohammed Hussein Jaffrey speaking.
Yeah.
So, Taha, thank you so much for this presentation. I'm new to the cybersecurity field. I just attended the ICC to virtual webinar a few days back. So I really don't know much about any of this. I'm not 20 years in the field. It's less than a year for me. I did the cybersecurity, certified in cybersecurity basic thing, right? So attending those sessions a few days back, I learned a lot about zero trust and what have you. There was a guy named Matthias that was from Palo Alto Networks. So the question I actually wrote was regarding that. He mentioned a lot of things about cloud security and how you merge it into your modern SOC. What I see as a problem, it doesn't matter if it's a 10-person company or you have 100,000 employees. I think it's always going to come back to zero trust, right? How do you protect the company itself from human error or what have you? Because it's going to happen regardless, right? I think zero trust is foundational in cybersecurity. Personally, from somebody that doesn't have much exposure in the field, I worked at UPS Canada for a while, so I did 2-3 years in business development. So I've worked with a lot of bigger companies, what have you. So we had a RBAC system in place over there. But for example, in my role as a sales guy, I had access to a lot of like information that normally you wouldn't have in that role because I had to go through IT and I had special privileges, right? So some of our systems in place, I had spreadsheets, access to a lot of confidential information. So one thing I realized is I think you need zero trust in place. And then you also, how do you manage RBAC at that scale? When you have 400, 500,000 employees, I'm just using a really high level example, right? UPS Canada only had maybe, I would say 30, 40,000 people, maybe 10,000 of those were sales in business development. How do you manage RBAC, especially when you talk about zero trust? One thing I learned from your presentation was zero trust is not just about humans. It's also about the agentic AI and what have you, right? You have to manage that. So that was my question. How do you manage it? Like, how do you scale it? How do you manage it? Do you need a full-time team in place for that, or?
See, your name is
Mohammed Jaffrey. Yeah, Hussein Jaffrey. I go by Hussein, but my
Hussein.
real name is Mohammed.
Hussein, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and interesting question. See, no matter you have like 10 accounts or 10,000 accounts, right? The underlying principle is the same. We call it in cybersecurity the CIA triad, right? You think through confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the underlying system and the resources. So if you think from the confidentiality perspective, you don't want, for example, if you as a role, you don't have to access to an HR, or the HR has to not access to the finance. what you will do, you'll create different RBAC policies around that. But before even that, you have to understand what your users are, who they belongs to, and what are their job actions looks like. So you have to have a like understanding of your human sort of workforce. Then from there, once you have classify the data, based on the ownership, based on what they need to do, then there are different tools available. For example, as an enterprise big as a small startup or a big enterprise, they can use a normal Active Directory to control authentication authorization of it, or you can use a privilege access management, depending on how much you can put in, right? So it's about, if you think from an architecture perspective, like you can either control it by having by like segmenting user into different groups and giving the like username and password, or you can use a single sign-on where you can rely on LDAP server or on Microsoft Entra to give you the authorization token of it, right? It really comes down to like understanding your data points, understanding your subjects, and how you want them to access those subjects. From the solution perspective, it's choice that how you want to implement, but you have to design, like you have to set up the design first. That is one. Like now it comes to the zero trust one. You have to understand from the zero trust perspective, there are two main fundamental concepts. One is a policy determination point, which means that how you want to trigger, or in what scenarios you want to trigger, like you want to allow an action. For example, if in what cases the finance team needs to talk to the HR, right? So you have to define those policies. And the second part of the zero trust is a policy enforcement point, that how you'll be enforcing those policies for those user groups. You can either use, for example, an identity management broker to enforce authorization control, or you can use OAuth2, or you can use whatever that control is, right? So that is something which you can need to start up with. And then moving that system to scale, it really depends on your design deployment. If you're using the cloud infrastructure, it is easy to scale. You can use containerized platform to deploy such an architecture, or if you want to use on-prem, depending on your choice, right? So I would say start with identifying your resources, what the use case looks like, and then take it from there.
Okay, thank you so much.
Of course, no problem.
Hassan,
Anyone
if
has
you're there,
a question? Yeah,
Hassan,
yes.
I think Hassan has a question, right? Hassan, do you want
Hassan,
to?
no, Hassan, already I asked the question on behalf of Hassan.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
I have a question.
So, okay. Yeah, now it's your turn.
More than a question, I would say it's a point, reflection point, right?
Hmm.
I mean, the conversation typically is in terms of automation, but very rarely I hear people talking about continuity. Now, recently I came across an article or a video recording of somebody saying that one day, the whole AI platform, the agents were down because it actually recognized their behavior as unacceptable, and the service provider took them completely down. Right? I don't want to name which platform it is, but I'm just asking you, are you seeing issues such as that where people are adopting and then one fine morning they find that services are down because it actually treats some of the behavior as malicious, but in reality, it isn't. Right? That's one part of the observation. The second one is, what measures or what processes should they put in place to ensure continuity of services? Because today, with all the automation coming in, let's say even triaging, right? We've taken the humans out. And if that activity doesn't take place, and we're just going to be, facing a real calamity out there. What are you seeing in your part of the world, and what are people talking about this?
I think you made an interesting point, Sujit. I've seen actually, first of all, like automation has been branded as AI and is been branded now as agentic sort of things. It's just an automation. It's just a Python script running in the background, which is automating the workflow, right?
Absolutely.
So that is one. Now, coming to your example in which we, set up a workflow in which we come tomorrow, we have seen the production system like alarming, with such a false positive alarm. uh, I think it comes down to the organization skill set of the security organization, that in what processes and systems and use cases they are implementing this agentic workflows. That is one, because a mature organization understands that it's still early days. No matter like Cisco's of the world or AWS or Google, the FANG world, I say, those are still experimenting. No matter they can present a demo where they can running multiple agents, and like that is only for the demo, product demo perspective, right? But actually implementing in
Absolutely.
production, we're not there yet. We are still kind of understanding what the agent capabilities are and how we can use agents to automate those workflows, right? uh, so the challenge is still here. The industry is still trying to learn and trying to adapt. But in my view, I would not give such access to those agents which can turn the system down. I can maybe ask them to do a triage and to send this output to one of the other agents and to generate a report out of it. But I would not, for those actions which needs human involvement, I would keep human as in the loop, for the normal routine use case. Yeah, but yeah, the challenge and the struggle is still here. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for the perspective.
of course.
Anyone else has a question or a
I have
comment?
one last question with
Go
Taha.
ahead, Salman.
Taha,
Yes.
so how do you see this agentic AI thing in context of governance? Do we have any case studies available? Also, in my current organization, we are implementing the crisis management process, right? And
Mhm.
if we somehow want to use agentic AI to, um, create that crisis flow through automation, and they can automatically generate the crisis notification and take all the people concerned on board and generate automated reports. How could that be possible? I mean, what will be the roadmap? What should an organization do to implement their crisis flow using agentic AI, for example? And then we can maybe embed them into our SIEM or SOAR for the protection thing or zero security thing. But what will be the first step, do you think, will be to achieve
I
this
think I'll
crisis?
break your Yeah, I get it. So I break your question into two parts. One is you said that about the governance, right? So the agentic governance, there is good like standards coming up with like from NIST. You can follow that. There is also a good white papers coming from Cloud Security Alliance, so you can definitely check those out as well. But in my presentation, as I said, that the governance and the frameworks comes down to your own organization. That what sort of governance policy you have in place right now, and those can be tweaked and modified and applied to those agents as well. So the underlying principle is the same. The agent has to still make sure that we have to make sure that agents communications are confidential. We should have data integrity in place, so that is not going anywhere. So the governance should be around the data part of it, that what the data is accessed by those agents, and do we have the agent identity or not, right? So that is one. Second is coming down to your particular use case, and if in your crisis sort of use case in which you have to use agents, I would highly like recommend you to think about the workflow. Uh, that if you can solve this with an automation or not, because see, like it's easy to come up with an agentic workflow, like, but it is difficult to maintain and to scale it, right? So I would really wants to use agents where there's a definite problem. I would not use an agentic workflow for the sake of just using it, because it comes down to cost. it is easier to do a demo or to set up using a free license. But if you want to scale, use multiple agents, because all of those agents needs prompt. It has to be saved somewhere. It has to be contextualized, processed somewhere, right? You have to maintain a lot of sort of like cloud system resources. It can easily get very costly for you. Maybe you are designing an agentic workflow to solve a $10 issue, whereas your automation can solve it in $2, right? So think from the cost versus benefit perspective about using an agentic workflow. I'm not saying to not let go, or to let go this idea. I still want you to, once you have a definite security automation use case, you can use those agents and to try that what value you are getting out of that, and then try to see if you have the skill set and resources in your organization to actually adapt to those new sort of working, and then to take it. So that is, yeah.
Oh, that's a fantastic observation, Ta.
Thank
A
you
good
very
way,
much.
good perspective to look at. Yeah, good
Exactly.
one.
So this came from a BCI seminar I attended few days ago, and people do have very unrealistic expectations to implement governance standards. For example,
Mm.
ISO 22301, and people think that everything will be just a magic, right? I mean, policy will be itself implemented, and everything. So people do need to understand the realistic situation on ground we do have at the moment, the cost benefit analysis, everything. Yeah, so thank you
Uh,
very much, Taha. I mean, it's clear. Yeah, thank you very much.
Salman, I
Okay.
think I'd like to refer to what Taha was saying during his presentation. And I think it is very important for all of us to understand all the processes and prioritize, critical to low efficiency driven processes. And I think from there on, you can actually start deciding which one would you want to automate and where you would really want to be in the loop. Yeah. So I think lifecycle management is a, a significant takeaway from this conversation.
Yes,
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Uh,
Let me, before closing, I would like to introduce actually, I want to be introduced first to the Mr. Sujit. Mr. Sujit is a very senior professional, and he's a chair our chapter regional management committee in APAC, and member of our executive committee, and mentor of our Islamabad chapter. So, Sujit, before closing this session, can you have some words for the audience?
Thank you, Saad. Thank you for being here. And everyone who has joined at this time of the day, this part of the world, we are almost, past very close to midnight. So thank you for being here. We value your time, and I hope that you have something to take back. And I personally have a lot of points which I've made note that I would be taking back, Taha. And definitely, it was a good refresher. Thank you so much. And I'd love to have you back again, do another session for us on another topic. Saad,
it's my
over to you.
pleasure. Thank you,
Yes.
Parag.
Yeah, before now we are moving to the closing of this our session, and thank you very much, Taha, for your such an insightful details and thought-provoking session. And inshallah, we have more session this kind of and for the audience, we have another session on the cloud security on the coming Friday at 6 p.m. Pakistan time. So if anybody would like to join or to get registered, so there is a link available in chapter WhatsApp group and the LinkedIn event as well. So please don't forget to get registered yourself for the next session. And thank you very much for the joining today session. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank you,
good
everyone.
night.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Have a good
Saad
Taha.
and Sujit. Have a
Bye.
great day.
You too.
Thank you,
Bye.
Taha. Bye.